It's alive! It's alive!
Welcome back to episode 5 of Theater of Circumstance.
Last week, as a part of our ongoing effort to collect the materials we need to tell our story, we each brought in a drawing of what we think our setting looks like, as well as some kind of description of the way that we think our characters would interact in that setting.
This week, we started to sketch an overview of our plot.
In order to do this, we each reflected on the core elements of our story that we'd already identified as a group. 5 New York City roommates. They disperse to their hometowns. Something then happens to their elderly landlady. It looks like they're at fault. They figure out what to do. All kinds of shenanigans ensue. That much we'd already agreed on and settled on as a group. This week, though, in order to help us really start to flesh out a more detailed run-through of our story and to start to fill in the missing pieces of the plot, we did an activity in which each of us individually brainstormed what we think might happen in the beginning of the story, in the middle of the story, and the end. And for each of those 3 sections, we each wrote down 2 sentences, such as in the beginning, he says this, but then she does this, and then this happens. Middle, he goes here, she says that, and then this is revealed. And then for the end, and so on and so forth, each of us creating our own imagined version of what happens in the beginning, middle, and end.
After taking some time to brainstorm individually, we all came together as a group to share our ideas, talk about the similarities, and settle on one cohesive story arc that we all felt excited by.
The beginning says, I try not to pay attention to the sound outside of my room because it's just a distraction. If I hear someone on the fire escape, I just assume it's the squirrel. Middle, I used to use that potted plant as an ashtray, but everyone got mad at me. Now I just throw my cigarettes in the street. End. I can't say I'm thrilled to have our landlord back. But hey, at least she's not dead, right?
So from the beginning, I wrote, the roommate's dog has recently disappeared, and they all suspect the landlady upstairs, with whom they already have a tumultuous relationship on account of their misuse of the fire escape. The roommates head home because of the coronavirus. Middle. The box turtle, with the best relationship with the landlady, is left alone in the apartment. One day during a video conference, he calls the landlady to confront about the dog. He steps outside and knocks a precarious houseplant onto the landlady's head. End. Roommates place blame until someone owns up to killing the dog on accident. Landlady is alive and comes up to the door with news of rent cancellation.
In the beginning, the roommates are not on speaking terms with each other. They are struggling to maintain peace, and it is a hostile environment of dirty dishes, overflow of laundry, and crumbs on the counter. Middle. The roommates have called a meeting in the living room to address rent and isolation safety. They agree to safely return to their families for the next 2 weeks. The inciting incident happens that night. The end. The roommates, over Zoom, express their alibis and who they believe and who they do not trust. Everyone played a piece to the incident. How can they make it right?
Beginning. Roommates gather on a group Zoom call to anxiously debate how they're going to pay this coming month's rent, given that 3 out of the 5 of them no longer have jobs and aren't in a position to ask their families for support. They then turn to discussing what they'll do when their notoriously merciless landlady comes knocking the first of the month. The call is then interrupted by the sound of something shattering and an old woman's blood-curdling scream coming from out beneath the fire escape. Middle. Roommates over Zoom, once again, get into heated conflict about what to do, given it was their flower pot or some other item that has struck the elderly landlady and placed her in a seeming coma. Conversation devolves into bitter accusations, whodunit, and competing factions, each with different ideas about how to proceed. Some feel they should contact the police immediately, others are determined to conceal the incident at all costs. And, less developed, roommates creep out onto the fire escape. Wait, never mind. That's all I've got.
Okay, so for the beginning, I wrote, New York City shuts down because of COVID-19 and the roommates scatter. Middle. The turtle goes back to the apartment to get something, and the landlady confronts him about his roommate's behavior from below the fire escape. Then a flower pot falls on her head. End. The turtle reports back to the roommates what's happened. The parakeet calls the hospital to make sure she's okay, and while she's fine, her concussion has left her, unable to recall how she got there. So basically, they knocked out the landlady and got away with it because she has concussion and doesn't remember what happened.
I think what we have brought, each of us can bring like a tentacle of the octopus to the story.
I agree that like there were distinct elements in each that I want to hold on to, but I also feel like there was a lot of overlap and a lot of resonance. And obviously in all of them, the inciting incident of the lady being injured by the thing falling. But there were also, like, Ed and I shared this thing about rent, which I thought was interesting. All of them I feel like alluded to this pivotal moment of conflict between the roommates.
Bouncing off of Walker, I think the other weird similarity that I noticed was that in, I think, almost everyone's story, the landlady's okay at the end of it. That was cool.
We don't want to kill off the landlady, even if she is ruthless. Something that I was thinking about with my version of the story is like the poetic justice of like they in the like maybe there's a, I didn't get into this again because I wanted it to be brief, but maybe there is a little bit of a debate about like, should we call someone? Should we just let her like leave with her? Like, what do we do? But in the end, they do the right thing, and because of that, they're rewarded by, you know, things kind of work out.
I had kind of a feeling that my character was kind of the red herring, where like in a mystery sense, like everyone would think it's me, but it would be revealed not to be me or something like that.
Concern of mine too is contextualizing the landlady before that event too, right? Like, what is the ongoing conflict between, what is the relationship between us and the landlady?
But I when you said that, I like the idea of a 3-act structure where each gathering on Zoom is a distinct moment in time. The beginning, tension is building. I feel like that was another similarity in all of our beginnings.
I feel like a good one to set the scene would be rent then. Like if there was one roommate who hasn't been able to pay their rent or something like that, that would allow us to contextualize the setting, the essential conflict, and the characters.
Oh, so while one person is physically there, everyone is like present for it, if that makes sense.
I like
For
that.
instance, if that's somebody going, "Hey, landlady, we're not paying your rent," and then and then you come back in, everyone's like, "Ah!" and freaking out. Then that goes to Act 1 or whatever.
We hear the scream and everyone just...
Yeah.
I think it does.
I agree that I think it would be the turtle. That was why in my version it was the turtle that this happens to.
Well, maybe it's the first time the turtle's ever gone on the fire escape, and it's just to yell at the landlady.
Ooh, I just had a thought. Combining two things, the dog and the rent thing. What if like they're like, why should we even pay her rent? She killed our dog, or like she hurt our dog, or something like that. And then that's why the turtle like goes to confront her, and then she's like, you guys are always leaving stuff on the fire escape. Blah, blah.
So each act is like a whodunit of a different focus. First it's the dog, and then it becomes like who's killed the landlady?
Yeah, who's at fault?
Who's at fault for now potentially implicating them in murder?
The next part gonna be the accusations, like everyone accusing everyone else of being at fault.
I think that, and also infighting about what to do. Right? Do we call the police? Do we tell someone in the building? And then you had said the thing about someone surreptitiously does inform the authorities without anyone else knowing.
Like it? I think we should. Do you want to specify who that someone is?
Could I suggest the goldfish?
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Do we want to talk about the ending? How the story resolves?
I was just gonna say, like, does it end with all of us like extradited back to New York, and we all end up in a New York precinct, not in jail, like everything. Which I think I feel like I trust in our ability to suspend disbelief. Like if all of like
Just the whole cell.
Yeah, and like I think it'd be kind of funny if, like, obviously we're not all in the same place, we're on Zoom, for Christ's sake, but I think it'd be kind of funny.
Now it's your turn to come up with your own story using our model.
Think back to last week when you designed the setting of your own story. Now, tell a story about the day someone new entered this setting and everything changed.
What happens in the beginning? What happens in the middle? How does it end? We want to see your stories in the comments below.
Give a short 2-sentence summary of each.
We can't wait to see what you come up with.